Story 1. I didn't grow up paranoid. In fact, I always thought people who double-checked their locks and installed cameras on every corner were just overreacting. I live in a quiet neighborhood, a little cul-de-sac just outside town. Dogs bark too much, and kids left bikes in the road, but it was peaceful. I worked from home. I knew my neighbors. I even had coffee with Mrs. Palmer across the street every other Thursday. There wasn't supposed to be anything to worry about. The first time I noticed something, it was barely a thing. The porch light was off. I figured it had burned out, but when I went to screw in a new bulb, I found the old one twisted loose and sitting neatly on the wooden rail. I laughed to myself, told a friend about it, and we made jokes about friendly ghosts. That was a Thursday. 3 days later, the garage door was up. Just a crack. Not open enough to look inside, just enough to make me feel unsettled. I closed it, checked the lock, then told myself it was just wind, or maybe I forgot. That's what your mind does. It tries to give you the best case explanation, even if it doesn't make sense. But then came the garden hose. I always roll it up tight. It was sprawled across the yard like someone had used it, and the water was dripping at the nozzle. It hadn't rained. There weren't footprints or anything dramatic. Just a slow, growing feeling in my stomach that something was off. The first night I saw him, I thought it was a shadow. I was brushing my teeth. The window above the sink looks out over the backyard, and just beyond that is a line of old pine trees. The moon was out, and I remember seeing something darker than the shadows, like a figure, standing just past the trees, not moving, not swaying like a branch, just still. I leaned closer, turned off the light, squinted, but it was gone. I didn't sleep well that night. I called the non-emergency police line the next morning. They sent an officer in the afternoon, but by then, there was nothing to see. He walked around and asked me if I had any enemies. I laughed. I told him I barely had friends. He looked around and said, "Honestly, ma'am, sometimes raccoons get curious." I smiled, nodded, thanked him, and felt like an idiot. It wasn't every night. That's what made it worse. Some nights were totally normal, but then there'd be tapping. Not hard knocking, just this slow, inconsistent tapping on my bedroom window. Once at 3 a.m., I actually crept over, pulled the curtain slightly, and nothing. Just my own reflection looking scared. I bought a motion light and installed it outside the kitchen. It went off once while I was asleep. The next morning, I checked the footage from the cheap camera I'd stuck under the gutter. At first, I didn't see anything. Then, at 2:48 a.m., the motion light flared on, and there he was. A man, maybe 6 feet tall, wearing what looked like a dark hoodie and jeans. He was standing perfectly still, head tilted slightly toward the window, not waving, not moving, just standing. I paused the video, stared at it. His face was shadowed, like something was covering it. It wasn't a ski mask. It looked like a paper mask, like the kind of kids wear in school plays, painted with wide eyes and a crooked smile. I went straight to the police station. The woman at the desk looked concerned. They reviewed the footage, said they'd send someone to patrol the area more frequently, but no one ever came by that I could see. No officers knocked. Nothing changed. I started keeping the lights on all night. I slept with the television on in the living room. I'd given up pretending everything was normal. I stopped going to the grocery store alone. I started locking the bathroom door while I showered. I started locking every door twice. I started losing my mind. 2 weeks after the video, something changed. I woke up one night to silence. It was too quiet. No fridge hum, no wind, nothing. Just this thick, pressing silence. I reached for my phone. It was dead. I swore I had plugged it in. I got up, heart pounding, and walked slowly to the hallway. The front door was open. Not wide open, just ajar. Enough for cold air to slip in. My fingers shook as I reached for the baseball bat I'd started keeping by the bookshelf. I inched toward the door, pushed it shut, and locked it. Every lock. I checked every room, every closet. Nothing. I turned on every light. And then I saw it. On the window in the kitchen, drawn in the condensation, were 5 fingerprints. Long, dragging streaks. Like someone had pressed their hand against the glass and slowly pulled it down. I lost it. I called the police, crying. They came this time. 2 officers. They checked everything again. No sign of forced entry. They told me, gently, maybe I should see someone. That sometimes, when we're under stress, we imagine things. I wanted to scream. I sent the footage to a friend. She uploaded it to a private forum. Someone responded within an hour. A former cop. He said he'd seen that mask before. Not the exact one, but the style. Said there'd been a string of break-ins 2 towns over. Victims reported the same thing. Slow buildup. Psychological games. Nothing has ever been taken. Just watched. He said, he doesn't want your things. He wants your fear. I stopped sleeping. Every time I passed a window, I expected to see him. Every noise felt like a whisper. Every silence felt like a scream waiting to happen. I wanted to leave. But part of me knew if I ran, I'd never stop running. Then came the attic, and everything changed. It happened 3 nights after the handprints. I was in the kitchen, pretending to clean just so I wouldn't have to go to bed. The lights were on. Every door is locked. My phone was charged. The bat was within reach. But fear has a way of creeping in even when you're doing everything right. I was pouring myself some water when I heard a sound I'll never forget. A single creak.fr upstairs. I froze. My house is old, sure, but not that old. I hadn't gone upstairs all day. I stood still, eyes on the ceiling like I could see through it. Then I heard another creak. Not heavy, not fast, just slow, deliberate pressure on a floorboard. I knew, right then, that I wasn't alone. I turned off the lights, every single one. In total silence, I backed into the hallway, barefoot, heart racing so hard I felt it in my throat. I didn't grab the bat. I didn't think. I just reacted. The attic was the only place with a latch you could pull up from the inside. I climbed, pulled the ladder back. The next day, I called a friend I hadn't talked to in years. She lived 2 states over. I told her I needed to get out. She offered her guest room. No questions, just kindness. I packed everything I could fit in my car and left that night. I didn't sleep. I didn't stop. I didn't look in the rearview mirror once. I left the rest of my things behind. But here's the part I haven't told many people. It's the part I still think about when I try to sleep. A month later, my friend got a letter. No return address. Just her name and street. Inside was a photograph. Black and white. Grainy. Taken from a distance. It was me, sitting on her back porch, drinking coffee. He had followed me. She installed cameras after that. I moved again, farther this time. Changed numbers, went offline. Disconnected from everyone except a handful of people. I don't post. I don't tag locations. I don't even order food to my door. Some nights I still wake up because I think I hear footsteps. Other nights, I feel nothing at all. Just this thick emptiness where trust used to be. The police never found him. Not really. They never identified the mask. Never proved he was there. They didn't help because they couldn't help. They didn't understand what it meant to live with that kind of fear, that kind of silence, that kind of invisible presence that makes you doubt your own sanity. I never saw him again, but I never felt alone again either. It was supposed to be one of those carefree summer road trips, the kind you plan senior year and remember for the rest of your life. There were 4 of us. Me, Ryan, Emily, and Trevor. We'd known each other since middle school, and before heading off to different colleges, we thought a week of back roads, bonfires, and 0 responsibilities would be the perfect send-off. We had a loose route down south, through Georgia and Alabama. Nothing too structured. No hotels booked. No parents are watching. Just an old SUV, a cooler full of gas station snacks, and the freedom to go wherever the road pulled us. Somewhere on the third day, things shifted. We were cutting through rural Alabama, and our GPS went weird. It froze, reset itself, and then started guiding us along a gravel road none of us had seen before. It wasn't on the map. We thought maybe it was some kind of shortcut, or maybe just one of those weird dead zones. But we were curious, too curious. The road narrowed and could be fun to poke around. I hesitated, but curiosity.it does something to you. It makes you ignore that voice inside telling you something's wrong. We crossed the field and stepped up onto the porch. The boards creaked beneath our feet like they hadn't held weight in decades. But the front door? It wasn't locked. It just opened, smooth and quiet. Inside, everything was intact. Not clean, but not destroyed either. There was a couch, old but still upright, a rocking chair, a lamp, family portraits on the wall, all blurred with age. There were cups on the kitchen table, dust covered, but standing. It was like someone had just stepped out and never came back. It smelled like mildew and old paper. Not death, not decay, just stale time. Upstairs, we found the bedrooms. One of them had a small twin bed with an old patchwork quilt. Next to it, on the nightstand, was a porcelain doll, the kind with the glass eyes that seemed to follow you no matter where you stand. Emily didn't want to go any further. Ryan tried to laugh it off, saying it was probably a time capsule or something. But then, we heard it. A woman's voice, crying, muffled, distant, and unmistakable. It came from downstairs. We froze. Every hair on my arm stood up. Emily whispered, "Did you hear that?" We all nodded. No one moved. Ryan leaned over the railing and called out, "Hello?" Silence. Then the crying came again. This time, closer. I felt something twist in my stomach. Trevor pulled out his phone, tried to record it, but his screen stayed black. It was like it had powered off without dying. Emily was already backing down the hallway, whispering, "We need to go. We need to go now." We ran, down the stairs, out the front door, back across the field, not looking back. We piled into the SUV, slammed the doors, and took off down the road. The sun was starting to set. Everything looked darker than it should have. When we finally hit pavement again, the GPS still wasn't working. But we didn't care. We just kept driving. That night, we stayed at a motel about an hour away. Tried to laugh it off. Said maybe we imagined it. Maybe there was an animal trapped inside. Maybe it was just the acoustics of the house. But in the morning, there was a note under the windshield wiper of our SUV. It was folded once. No envelope. Just a piece of old yellowed paper. On it, in shaky handwriting, were 3 words. "Don't come back." We didn't talk much on the drive back home. The car felt heavy with things we didn't want to say out loud. Trevor kept watching the rearview mirror. Emily cried quietly. Ryan sat in silence, arms crossed, eyes forward. We told ourselves it was just some creepy place in the middle of nowhere. Nothing paranormal. Nothing we couldn't explain. Just a weird moment we'd eventually laugh about. But that didn't happen. Because the next morning, Trevor was gone. We'd all crashed at my place, too shaken to be alone. The plan was to sleep off the stress, talk it out over breakfast. But when I woke up, Trevor's stuff was still there. His phone, his bag, even his wallet. But no Trevor. His shoes were by the door. Car keys are still on the counter. His phone had a text on the screen, unread. It said just 2 words. "She's calling." We tried to call him. No answer. We searched the neighborhood, the backyard, and even knocked on neighbors' doors. Nothing. We finally called the police around noon. They asked the usual questions. Was he depressed? Had he ever run away before? Was there any drinking involved? We told them everything. About the farmhouse, about the voice, about the note. They said he had to be missing for 48 hours before they could do anything official. We didn't wait. That night, Ryan and I drove back to the gravel road. Emily refused to come. We couldn't blame her, but something was pulling us back. I don't know if it was guilt or anger or just desperation, but we needed answers. We followed the same directions, the same turns, except this time, there was no road, just woods, solid trees, no clearing, no tire tracks, no dip into the hollow. The road was gone. We spent hours trying to retrace our route. Nothing. Eventually, we turned around. But as we drove, Ryan hit the brakes so hard, I slammed into the dashboard. There it was. Not in front of us, but off to the side. A narrow path, barely wider than the car, cut between the trees. It hadn't been there a second ago. We turned in. The air got colder. I don't care if that sounds dramatic.it felt real. Like we crossed into something that didn't obey the same rules. This time, the house looked worse. It had aged 50 years in a week. The roof sagged, the windows were broken, and vines crawled up the front like veins. But the front door was still wide open. We stepped inside. The air was heavy, almost wet. Dust coated everything, but the cups on the table were gone. The portraits on the walls were slashed. The rocking chair lay broken. And then, from below us came a noise. Not crying this time. Something else. A dragging sound. Then a chain. Then a soft voice. "Is someone there?" We followed it. In the kitchen, under a moldy rug, was a cellar door, locked with a rusted padlock. But Ryan kicked it open. The stairs down were steep and slick with something I didn't want to name. At the bottom, there was one single bulb hanging from the ceiling, flickering. And beneath it, a room. Concrete floor. Wooden walls. And against the far wall, restraints. Bolted into the wood. Chains. Old fabric. Scraps of clothing. And blood. It was dry, dark, but unmistakable. There were symbols etched into the floor, not like ritual stuff, just scratches. Claw marks. Desperation. In the corner, there was something small and square. A jewelry box. Inside was a photograph, black and white. A young girl standing in front of the same house, except it looked new, pristine. On the back of the photo, scrawled in red ink, "Still here, still hungry." Then we heard it. A voice, not from behind us, from inside us. Whispers, both of us at once. The same words. "You shouldn't have come back." We ran. I don't remember reaching the top of the stairs. I don't remember getting into the car. I just remember the trees closing in as we sped out. The road behind us vanishing in the rear view like it had never been there. The police didn't believe a word of it. They went to the spot we marked on the map. Nothing. No path. No farmhouse. No hollow. Just forest. Dense and old. They said Trevor probably had a psychotic break and wandered off. The case went cold. We never found him. His family tried search parties, dogs, helicopters. Nothing. I still have that photo. I kept it in a locked box, hidden in a storage unit 2 cities away. But sometimes, I wake up in the middle of the night convinced I can hear the voice again. Calling, whispering, promising, and a part of me .deep down. I believe it. I believe that place is still out there, shifting, hiding, waiting, because something still lives there, and it knows our names. Story 3. My younger sister Rachel was the kind of person everyone loved to be around. She lit up every room, laughed too loud, always offered to cover someone's shift. She worked the night shift at a gas station just off the highway. Not the worst area in town, but far enough out that most nights were dead quiet. Just truckers, late-night drifters, and the occasional local grabbing a soda on their way home from some after-hours thing. I remember the first time she mentioned something weird. It wasn't a big deal at first. Just a guy, tall, pale, wearing a brown jacket that looked about 3 decades out of style. She said he stood by the drink coolers for 2 hours. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't pick anything up. She joked about it when we talked. Said he gave her the creeps. I told her to call the cops next time. She said, for standing still, they'd laugh at me. She wasn't wrong. Over the next week, she said he came back twice. Always around 3 a.m., never bought anything. Just stood there, staring. Sometimes at the fridge, sometimes at her. Never talking, never smiling. The cameras caught him once, but the feed glitched, she said. And all it recorded was static, like he scrambled it just by being there. Then the door started acting up. The security door behind the counter was supposed to lock from the inside with the heavy bolts. She said it stopped latching. She'd pull it shut, and it would drift open a few minutes later. Maintenance checked it twice, said it was fine. She started propping a crate against it. Told her boss. He didn't care. One night, I got a call from her just before closing. She sounded off, like her voice had lost its rhythm. She said the man had come in again, but this time, he didn't stay in the store. He waited by the dumpster for hours, just standing there, out of frame. She said she could see the edge of his coat through the side window, just barely. I told her to call the cops. She already had. They didn't come. Too busy, they said. She wasn't in danger. No crime had been committed. And without proof, it wasn't worth sending anyone out that far. The next day, a regular customer told her something she didn't know. He was fueling up around 4 a.m. Said he saw the man standing behind the building, watching the store. But not just watching, following her car as she left. He said it gave him chills. The way the guy didn't move, just turned his head as her car pulled away. She told me this while laughing nervously, like maybe it was all a weird coincidence. I didn't laugh. I offered to drive her to and from work, but she said no. She needed the money. Didn't want to bother me. Then came the last night. She always texted me when she got off. Just a heading home or a goofy selfie of her in the break room with a bag of chips. That night, nothing. I waited. 15 minutes. Then 30. I texted. I called. No answer. Around 4:10 a.m., her phone finally rang. I answered before the first buzz finished. There was no voice, just breathing. Slow, steady, wrong. Like someone had never taken a breath before and was learning how. I shouted into the phone, screamed her name. Nothing. Then the line went dead. I drove to the store like a maniac, blew through 2 red lights. When I got there, the parking lot was empty. The lights inside the store were off. Her car was still parked by the curb. One headlight is flickering. The driver's door cracked open. Her purse was on the passenger seat, and no sign of Rachel. When I pulled into the parking lot and saw her car still there, I knew something was wrong in a way I'd never felt before. It wasn't panic. It was something worse. A kind of hollow, sinking certainty. Her purse was on the seat. Her keys were still in the ignition. The car was running, but she was gone. I pounded on the gas station door. It was locked. The lights were off. No sign of anyone. I ran around to the back, expecting, praying, to find her taking out the trash, or on a call, or anything. But the alley behind the store was empty. The dumpster lid was open. That was it. I called 911. They arrived 20 minutes later. 2 officers, casual, unconcerned. Took my statement. Walked the perimeter. Didn't even go inside until I demanded they force the back door. They found nothing. No signs of a struggle. No blood. No damage. Her phone was behind the counter. Screen cracked. Battery dead. They asked if she had a history of mental illness. If she was seeing anyone. If she had debts. I told them she'd been scared for weeks. That someone had been watching her. That she'd called them before. That they never showed up. They nodded politely. Took a few notes. Told me they'd file a report, but that, quote, adults leave sometimes. It happens more than you think. I felt like I was screaming underwater. The security footage? Corrupted. All of it. Every camera. Static across the board. Like someone had known exactly what to do to erase it. The footage from the night before? The same. Everything leading up to that night had been wiped or glitched. Convenient, they said. Suspicious, they said. But without physical evidence, there was nothing they could do. Rachel's case went cold within 2 weeks. I didn't let it die. I started digging. I called her coworkers, regulars, anyone who might have seen something. One of the truckers remembered seeing a man standing near the edge of the trees that bordered the lot. Not close, just there, watching, always watching. Another cashier said she once caught Rachel crying in the break room, clutching her phone, refusing to say why. Her manager said she'd asked for a shift change the week before she vanished. None of it mattered. Not to the cops. To them, she was just another adult who walked away from her life. But I knew her. She wouldn't do that. She wouldn't leave without telling me. Not with her car still running. Not with her purse in the seat. A year passed. Then 2. No leads. No suspects. No updates. Until the 3rd year. A man was arrested in Ohio. Found in a storage unit he'd rented under a fake name. Inside were boxes. Labeled. Organized. Meticulously sorted. One of the boxes held IDs. Jewelry. Phones. Clothes. Trophies. One of those items was Rachel's employee badge. Still clipped to her name tag. Still stained with something dark and old. My hand shook when I saw it. The detective in charge called me directly. Said the man refused to speak. Not a word. Not to anyone. He just sat there, smiling. A smile that didn't belong to anything human. They still couldn't prove he took her. Nobody. No DNA. But I knew. I knew he was the man from the gas station. The one who stared too long. Who waited by the dumpsters. Who never blinked. The one the police never took seriously. They never found out where he took her. Never found the others either. Just their belongings. Just their absence. I carry her photo with me now. Always. I look at it before bed. I whisper to her. I tell her I'm sorry. Sorry I didn't drive her that night. Sorry I didn't push harder. Sorry I let them tell me to wait. And if you take anything from this story, anything at all, it's this. If someone you love says they're scared, believe them, even when the police won't.